In one small part of space, the war continues. In war, there can only be one victor. Space is an uninhabited wilderness, and bloody wounds vanish over time. Perhaps the multitude of stars in the sky remember those wounds. Maybe it is fated that even those stars will one day vanish. Man's presence in the midst of these stars is all that remains of a long-forgotten battle. At this moment, in the middle of the vast universe, an insignificant island, a galaxy, was at war. A war that has plagued humanity for 150 years. The Free Planet Alliance and the Galactic Empire are in a state of decay, with a new generation of young men becoming leaders and driving the events of history, ushering humanity into a new and peaceful age. This is the story of Legend of the Galactic Heroes, simply a turn of the page to the history of the galaxy. Anime is a multi-generational medium in Japan for several decades, with some of the best talent in the world that has produced truly great works of art, with impeccable storytelling that has raised the bar quite a bit in how I judge modern movies and television. I haven't done a video on anime yet, but I have been on other channels discussing how I got into the medium when I started college and started collecting the physical DVDs of shows that I really liked after watching them with my friend Steven over the years. Well, one day in my penultimate year of college, finals were approaching. The stress was insanely high for me. Steven told me about this new series that was in the process of being fan-subbed, a series that features space fleet battles in a military setting. I was like, is this anything like Gundam? He was like, yes and no. There are no mobile suits that carry out close quarters combat, but small fighter craft carrying out dogfights, like that epic trilogy of films about space wizards and laser swords and giant laser stations. I was curious about this series because everything anime-wise that I have seen up to this point has been excellent so far. But what I just said here is an understatement for how I received this series. I was blown away emotionally after watching this, and want to stress that if you like a very good story, a military science fiction in a space opera style of setting, a war epic with a multitude of characters, their journeys, game-changing events that move the story and the characters forward, Ginga Ayu Densetsu, translated as Legend of the Galactic Heroes, is a series I think everyone needs to see at least once, a faithful adaptation of an epic 10-book series. The 10-novel series was written by Dr. Yoshiki Tanaka of Japanese language and literature. He writes the story as a historical chronicle, but in the genre of space opera. He based the major events off of real events in history, but dialed it up to 15. The novel series was adapted into a 110-episode OVA, directed by the famous Noboru Ishiguro, who was previously responsible for the second season of Uchu Senken Yamato, or Space Battleship Yamato, a story about the valorous crew of a space battleship going off into deep space beyond our solar system to fight powerful alien villains to protect Earth and its people. He also directed Shojiku Yosai Makuroso, or Super Dimension Fortress Macross, and the first episode of Megazone 23 OVA. So he already has a great track record and is a perfect fit to helm the 110-episode OVA adaptation of Dr. Tanaka's books. Let's talk briefly about the setting and characters. Legend of the Galactic Heroes takes place in the far future, where humanity has left its ruined cradle of Earth and ventured far into the cosmos. Interstellar travel became second nature to humanity, and many terraformed worlds were hence settled, giving humanity a greater foothold in the Milky Way. The results of these accomplishments unfortunately led to, due to humanity's ever-continuing flaws and frailties, an interstellar war that has been intermittent for 150 years. The two powers engaged in this fighting are the Galactic Empire, a monarchy based off of 19th century Prussia, ruled by the Kaiser, located in the Orion arm of the Milky Way. and the Free Planet Alliance, a representative democracy ruled by a High Council with the Supreme Chairman as head of state, located in the Sagittarius arm of the Milky Way. Since there are two sides with their own politics and ideologies fighting one another, Legend of the Galactic Heroes has the unique situation of having not one, but two protagonists. The one representing the Empire is none other than Reinhard von Mussel, a young man from humble nobility who has enlisted in the military at the age of 16, yet manages to rise to the rank of Senior Admiral and holds the status of Count in the Empire's aristocracy by the age of 20, where the series begins. His ambition, which I won't get into here, you will have to watch the show to find out, but his ambition knows no bounds, and there are points in the story where he becomes a great character because of the nature of power in politics, and we go on this journey with him. He is extremely likable, distinctive in his abilities, yet flawed. On the other side, the one representing the side of the Alliance, is the hero of El Facile himself, Commodore Yang Wenli. Yang is a man of even humbler origins, has little to no ambition, but has a major interest in history and only joined the military because his father died, leaving him nothing, and he had nowhere else to go but the military if he wanted to get any education at all. Both protagonists and the people under them have noticed both of their societies are in a state of deep decline as war has continued to fester generation after generation and take the steps to end this insane war that has dragged on for far too long. I will say, as a longtime anime fan, before seeing this show, after the first 5 episodes, I knew the series was to be something truly special. So many things happen, and said things lead to major consequences that propel the story even further. The cast of characters is huge, with so many that each of the two protagonists interact with on their respective sides of the war. Yang has a young ward named Julian, whose parents were killed in the war, and considers Yang to be a second father to him. Yang, who is ultimately anti-war, tries to dissuade him from paying back the military with service, but let's just say Julian feels deeply indebted and wants to participate in the war effort. Julian learns a great deal from Yang, and well, I won't spoil the rest of the show, but he is extremely important. Back on the Empire side, let's just say Reinhard hasn't achieved all that he has done alone. We meet another awesome character named Siegfried Kircheis, who is Reinhard's friend all the way from childhood. Let's just say Kircheis witnesses something traumatic that happens to Reinhard, and because of that, Kircheis is willing to help Reinhard achieve his ambition by hook or by crook. But at the same time, he acts as Reinhard's moral center. Let's just say, I would say Kircheis is the Samwise Gamgee to Reinhard's Frodo Baggins. Reinhard has many enemies with the nobility because of his accomplishments, so Kircheis watches his back like any good friend should. I just named 2 of a plethora of many colorful characters on both sides of the war who, as Yang would put it, is one good versus another type of good, not necessarily good versus evil. However, we do have some bad actors and villains who are manipulating events and using the war for their own ends. So with that being said, no one, and I repeat, no one is safe in this show. If you decide to begin the show, keep that in mind, and if danger does happen, well, war is unpredictable, and you never know when a character may kick the bucket. This show has it all: fleet battles, dogfights, scheming nobles, planet-sized fortresses, corrupt councilmen, military coups, assassinations. Oh, did I forget to say that there is some graphic violence too? I am not sure if simply calling this an anime would do this series justice. Deep animated literature is what I would call this. Another major gem of an aspect of this series that contributes to the timelessness of it is the repeated use of orchestral classical music throughout the entire series. We hear the timeless works of all the famous European composers we learned about in music class in school, from Johann Sebastian Bach, to Mozart and Beethoven, to Chopin, Mahler, Wagner, Brahms, and notably Ravel, amongst countless other composers. The classical music played, whether during character moments or ship battles, just works extremely well, and hearing Ravel's Bolero, in particular, to the movement and engagement of ship battles, just gives me the feels every time. I am currently in my 5th watch after first seeing it 15 years ago, and I just finished the first season of 26 episodes, and I still do not have a dry eye. And there is still 84 episodes left. Legend of the Galactic Heroes has a lot of story to tell in a science fiction setting that does not have a whole lot of hard science fiction to it. It's basically a war epic with major fleet battles that happens to take place in interstellar space, but it's also a partial period piece. It's also a commentary on politics of the 80s and 90s. And most of all, a story chronicling the exploits of our interstellar heroes as they seek to bring humanity to a new era that will once and for all end this war of ideology. Benevolent monarchy versus corrupt representatives. Autocracy versus democracy. Who benefits from war and who has to bear the brunt of it? What happens when anti-war protesters encounter useful idiots of the state, or even worse, soldiers unprepared to handle them? Is time truly a wheel and history simply repeats itself? These questions are addressed in the series, and I hope this gets you interested in checking it out. Before I go, I just want to share that this original series has a lot of content to it. Before the 110 episode OVA, there was a movie called My Conquest is the Sea of Stars that takes place prior to the first episode of the OVA, where Reinhard and Young first meet in battle. There is also another movie called Overture to a New War that is a retelling of the first 2 episodes of the OVA and converts it into 90 minutes of additional depth to the characters, especially showcasing Young's friendship with Lop and Jessica, and the consequences of the battle in My Conquest. There is also a 52-episode Gaiden OVA made up of several arcs featuring how Reinhard went from grunt to senior admiral in only 4 years, a wunderkind of sort, and how Young became the hero of Alpha Seal as an enlistee, followed up by his investigation into the mystery behind a legendary admiral's death 50 years prior. I would say watch the main series first, and then watch the Gaiden if you truly enjoy it. I would suggest if you do a rewatch like I have, I would recommend watching everything in chronological order, from the Gaiden, to the 2 films, and finally the main series. I hope this video has sold you on this show, and if it has, tell me in the comments below what has you intrigued, and if you already watched it, please share what you liked about it without giving too much away. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and leave a comment before you go. For as long as anime entertainment continues to move forward, our past shows continue to accumulate, and history is not just records of great works from long ago. It's proof that great stuff from Japan and elsewhere continues to advance to the present. You thought this video was over, huh? There are plenty more anime series I want to recommend going forward. Let's leave the confines of interstellar space and land back on Earth at the end of the Cold War in Dusseldorf, West Germany. Can there be another epic anime series with another large cast of characters and high episode count, but this time take on the form of a mystery crime psychological thriller? Does a world-renowned brain surgeon from Japan make a dire mistake choosing to save the life of a young boy, resulting in the deaths of countless people? Will he be blamed for that? How would he handle such insane events? Will he embark on a journey to find this monster and stop whatever atrocities this person plans to enact? Who is this monster, and why does he do what he does? All this and more on my next Anime Recommends, Naoki Urasawa's Monster. Why do I like this series so much? Tune in next time to find out.